Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with the Fan TV back at another video. Like the content of this video, go smash that like button. Like the content of this channel, go and subscribe, man. Look, so Ravens training camp, I believe, is like 13 or something like that at this point, as far as practices, right? So we're going to do how we usually do: injury report, practicing, who's out there, who's not, then the defense and the offense, right? Now, as far as the injury report goes, Kyle Hamilton, Keaton Mitchell, TJ Tampa, Robert Longerbeam, William Kenku, and Bilal Kone with the IR. But the other guys previously mentioned are just not practicing today, right? So Marcus Major, running back, he's been out for a little while with a concussion. He's back practicing, but he's kind of in a non-contact jersey, so he's not fully back, right? But he's been out for a little bit. He's been out for a little while. Now, as far as the severity of the injuries of the guys that are not practicing, Kyle Hamilton and Keaton Mitchell are said not to be very, very serious. Kyle Hamilton was practicing on a side field by himself, or he was kind of running on the side field by himself. I won't say he was full on practicing. He was running on the side field. And Keaton Mitchell, John Harbaugh said his injury is not serious, right? Now, you got to think about what Keaton Mitchell, yes, he played some last year, right? But if we think about it, this game versus the Colts is the first time we've really seen true explosion and burst from Keaton Mitchell, right? So the Ravens probably don't want to, just rush him out there, overload him with practices right now at the moment, okay? TJ Tampa, they said it wasn't serious. Longerbeam's been out for a little while. And Kenku actually I believe he had a sack in the game, right? So they didn't say what was going on with him. At least I didn't see it. But hopefully he's, something minor as well, because, he needs all the reps he can get, try to continue to impress, right? He wants to be out there, of course. So that's it for the injury report. Now for the offensive side of the ball. Now for the offense, right, the main story of today was false starts, okay? False starts were a major, major problem today. The Ravens had 3 false starts in 4 plays. In total, it was about 5 false starts in 9 plays, right? So almost every other play, the Ravens were false starting. Now, this caused John Harbaugh to sub out the entire offensive line group. All 5 players subbed out, right? Ty Monken was frustrated with it. It was a whole ordeal. All right. Now, this isn't the first time. This isn't anywhere near the first time the Ravens have had multiple false start infractions during practice. This is something that could potentially be a problem, right? At first, it was the first, week and a half. I say, okay, they're figuring some things out. We'll let it go. But now we're starting to hear about it still up until this point. We're kind of too deep in training camp right now to still be hearing about it, right? The Ravens have 2 more preseason games left, which means the regular season is right around the corner. All right. And while these 5-yard penalties may seem small, 1st and 15 is a hell of a lot different from 1st and 10. These games, when you're going against, Buffalo week 1, you get a first and 15, or hell, if it's a 3rd down, right? Say it's a 3rd and 5, you get a false start, you make it a 3rd and 10, you're shooting yourself in the foot, putting yourself in a deeper hole. Okay. The Ravens don't need to be doing that to themselves. They're too good of a team to be as penalized as they are. That was supposed to be the whole point of the Ravens bringing in, this referee assistant and everything like that to help them be better and try to control some of their penalty issues, right? So far, the false starting has been a major issue, and that's just the fact of the matter. All right. Now there's still time for them to clean that up. We're going to be looking out for that. But people, we try not to take too many overarching things, overreacted things. But when you hear the same thing constantly and being repeated, it's something that you got to watch out for, right? So the Ravens' false starting issue is something that we have to pay attention to, right? They've made it such that we have to pay attention to it, right? It's simple as that. Now some positives for the Ravens offense. DeAndre Hopkins and Dayton Wade were out there making plays. They also mentioned that Charlie Kohler and Anthony Miller made some highlight reel plays, right? What those plays were exactly, I didn't really see much detail about, but those 4 players make some plays, right? So DeAndre Hopkins has continued to build his chemistry with Lamar Jackson. We know that Lamar Jackson is trusting DeAndre Hopkins with a lot of things, fade balls, back shoulder balls, right? Giving him a chance. If he sees them one-on-one down there, really giving him a chance, okay? And Dayton Wade is a guy that he continues to make plays. He made plays last year. He's making plays this year. It's just a number game. It's just a numbers game for him, right? Are there enough spots for him to make this team? I'm not really 100% sure, right? Especially with LaJohntay Wester popping off, that big punt return touchdown. So, he was going to have to take a wide receiver spot and a special team spot, right? Which is something Dayton Wade can't fully provide that value as a punt returner, right? But as on offense, he's making plays, right? So, it's unfortunate. We'll see what happens. But Dayton Wade continues to do his thing. All right. Anthony Miller is consistent, reliable. When the Ravens need him, he's right there, right? Honestly, I don't know how much he'll be called up this season, or if he's still gonna be on the team when the regular season starts. But if he is, I have trust in belief in Anthony Miller, right? He really hasn't let the Ravens down yet. And Charlie Kohler is taking advantage of this opportunity with Isaiah Likely being out with the foot injury, right? Isaiah Likely, was set for a big role this season. He still will have a big role when he returns, obviously. But Charlie Kohler right now is taking advantage of the fact that he's getting a bump up in reps, right? And Charlie Kohler's always been a talented player, but opportunities have been a little slim. And but right now he's taking advantage of it, right? That's all you really ask for. Now for the defensive side of the ball, Nate Wiggins, impressive today, right? Locked up in the one-on-one drill. They tried to throw a fade route on him, pass breakup. He also had a red zone interception on Lamar Jackson in 11 on 11s. So Nate Wiggins has been very, very impressive, right? Seeing the Ravens coach joint practice, right? It seemed as though AD Mitchell had a really good day, not just against Nate Wiggins, but against a couple of the Ravens corners, right? So Nate Wiggins, bounced back from that and everything like that. And obviously getting ejected from the practice for fighting and whatnot. He's had a really good training camp overall, right? So I really can't say too much bad about Nate Wiggins' game, right? There's really only one thing that, seems to bite Nate Wiggins right now is that for some reason for a fast corner, he gets beat over top a lot, which is strange, right? He runs a 4.28. Nobody should really be getting by him. So that's probably more of a technique thing. Hopefully they're probably cleaning that up and whatnot. But Nate Wiggins overall has been impressive during training camp. This has to be 4 or 5 interceptions during training camp. I want to say it has to be at least 4 or 5, right? And last year he had an issue with dropping interceptions, right? Dallas game comes to mind, a couple other games, right? Nate Wiggins, I think, only had the one pick six last year versus the Cleveland Browns. He could have easily had 5 interceptions last year, So if he's holding on to the ball this season, he's going to be a major, major problem and a guy that should be looked at as a potential Pro Bowler this year. All right. Chidobe Awuzie had an interception on Lamar Jackson today. Marquise Robinson, had an interception on Cooper Rush, right? So Awuzie, he's taking advantage of his opportunity. He's the guy that, the Ravens brought in to play some outside corner snaps. When he's healthy, he's a really good player. You can say that about a lot of guys on the Ravens roster, right? But the Ravens have a really, really stacked cornerback room. We say this repeatedly, but it's the truth, right? They have a lot of good, talented players. And Chidobe Awuzie is one of those guys, right? So how much he'll play, I don't know, right? The Ravens signed Jair Alexander and everything like that. But if they need Awuzie to come in and play reps, he's going to play well. I truly believe that, right? Because, everywhere he's been, when he's been healthy, he's been a good player. So, but yeah, he had an interception. Marquise Robinson interception on Cooper Rush. Like I said, I haven't heard his name too much, so good for him. Good interception right there. Cooper Rush. I don't know if he struggled overall. That was just one play, but it hasn't been a lot of positives about the Ravens' backup quarterback situation, right? There aren't too many capable backup quarterbacks in the NFL anyway, so I'm not going to make a big deal about this situation, right? We know that Lamar Jackson is the engine to this team, right? So getting worked up about backup quarterbacks is not important to me, honestly. But, you will hope to see Cooper Rush doing a little bit better, right? But, it is what it is at this time. Okay, so lastly, right, usually we talk about the kicking part right here, but there was no reports about Tyler Luke kicking today. So I'm not sure what he did, how he did, don't know. But there was some O-line, D-line, pass rush drills to end practice, right? They said the D-line, was getting off, they did pretty well. The highlight, though, was at the end. Ronnie Stanley stonewalled Kyle Van Noy, and then he did the Jair, sword celebration, right? So that's pretty funny to see. Imagine Ronnie Stanley doing a celebration, right? The Ravens might even drop that on, social media, right? That'd be something pretty funny to see. But Ronnie Stanley, great player. Kyle Van Noy, obviously a really good player as well. The Ravens pass rush has been good throughout training camp. They were good versus the Colts. They were very, very deep. You had Mike Green. I mentioned William Kenku earlier. You had David Ojabo, Adisa Isaac, CJ Ravenel. I saw some cut-ups of him, on Twitter, right? He was getting after it, right? So the Ravens are really, really deep when it comes to rushing the passer, right? And I'm really looking forward to that. If that was one thing that was holding this team back, I would say it's the ability to rush forward and get home, right? Hopefully that is not an issue this season. Now obviously Odafe Oweh. I didn't mention Odafe Oweh. Obviously Odafe Oweh as well. So hopefully this season, we see the Ravens have a really dynamic pass rush, right? As far as the offensive line goes, we talked about it. They got to clean up the false starts, right? That's going to be a thing that holds this offense back, that holds this team back. If you're going to shoot yourself in the foot with, false start and illegal motion, legal shifts, whatever, these kind of pre-snap penalties, if you're going to kill yourself with that, you're not going to go very far. All right, so Ravens got to clean that up. And the defenses continues to play well. Nate Wiggins, Adobe Awuzie, this Ravens secondary is really, really talented. So good day overall for them, right? But that's my report from Ravens training camp. Give me your thoughts in the comments. But it's Gary Root, another Fan TV. I'm out.